I returned home for the annual family gala and gently asked my mother, "Did they include my name on the program?" She looked at me, paused for half a second too long, then said, "They decided to keep it simple." My sister, Claire, who had just finished a phone call in her gala gown, turned and added, almost casually, "You're not eligible." She said it with a smile, so polished it didn't quite reach her eyes. I didn't say anything. I didn't ask why. I just stood there, gripping the side of my purse a little tighter as the makeup artist called her name. 3 hours later, I was seated near the back of the ballroom in a seat marked Volunteer Support. Claire stood on stage under golden lights, accepting the Heart of the Community Award for her tireless efforts coordinating our family's decade-long outreach initiatives. People clapped. My mom wiped away tears. My father looked proud. I stayed still. They didn't see it the way my hands trembled slightly beneath the tablecloth, or how I'd quietly removed my name tag before dinner started. I didn't want anyone asking what I did, because I did everything. But apparently, I didn't do it with the right last name. 7 years ago, when Claire was recovering from surgery and the family's literacy program was on the verge of losing its school partnership, it was me who stepped in. I was fresh out of college, had just started my job at the public library. I offered to take over the Saturday sessions. Claire had left behind lesson plans, barely legible scribbles in a notebook, and I rebuilt them from scratch. Even wrote a reading curriculum that ended up being used in 5 community centers. I wasn't paid. Not even a thank you card. But every weekend, I showed up. Rain, snow, or flu season. When the grant proposal needed editing, I stayed up until 3 a.m., formatting footnotes and cross-checking budgets. I translated materials for the immigrant families, designed flyers, managed RSVPs, scrubbed bathrooms before events when the cleaning service didn't show. But when reporters came for interviews, Mom always said Claire was the visionary. I was helpful. 2 years ago, when Claire had to move to Denver for her husband's job, I handled everything: the school events, supply runs, donor dinners. She emailed suggestions once a month, sometimes a quick, "Can you handle this?" text. I always did. I thought I was being loyal. Turns out, I was being erased. Last month, I found the draft of the gala speech on Mom's printer. Claire's name appeared 15 times. Mine 0. I asked gently, "Do you want me to update this with the actual volunteer hours?" My mother looked startled. "Oh, sweetie, it's just symbolic. It's important the message is cohesive. One face, one story." Oh, so I became invisible. Tonight, when Claire walked past my table, award in hand, she bent down slightly. "Thanks for holding the fort while I was gone," she said, like I was a temp worker. Then she added more softly, "Don't take it personally. You know how these things are." I looked up at her. She was glowing. Perfect hair, perfect speech, perfect lie. I didn't flinch. I just said, "Of course," and watched her glide away. By dessert, people had stopped noticing me, which was a relief. Because I wasn't sure how long I could sit there without showing something hurt, maybe. Or worse, the kind of hollow ache that comes when you realize you were never supposed to be seen. The waiter brought coffee. I stirred mine slowly. No sugar, no cream. I listened to the clink of forks and the soft jazz from the stage. And I thought about the storage closet at the rec center, how I once slept there on a yoga mat when the roads were too icy to drive home after a fundraiser. I thought about the winter coat drive I organized solo when Claire forgot the date, the boxes I carried, the letters I wrote, the names I remembered. I thought about my name, how it was never printed, never spoken, never even whispered. I didn't leave early. I waited until every plate was cleared, every light dimmed. Then I walked out, slowly, coat over one arm, heels clicking softly against marble. No one called after me. No one asked where I was going. And that silence, it said everything. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed, eyes open in the guest room of my parents' house, staring at the ceiling fan that wobbled slightly with every turn, the same fan that had been there since high school. The same room where I once pulled all-nighters preparing literacy worksheets when Claire called in, overwhelmed. The gala was over. The applause had faded. But her words, "You're not eligible," still rang in my ears like a verdict. I thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was pride. But the next morning, while pouring coffee in the kitchen, I saw the family group chat buzzing. "Claire, your speech was amazing. You're the reason this program exists. We're so proud of you. I wasn't mentioned, not once. I scrolled up. Someone had posted the official photo Claire holding the plaque, our parents flanking her like political campaign managers. I was in the background, blurry, mid-blink, almost out of frame. I didn't join the conversation. I just turned off notifications and slid my phone into a drawer. After breakfast, I took a walk past the old rec center. The banner I designed still hung outside, the blue faded to gray. Bright Futures Literacy Program, EST 2016. I had hand-stitched those letters on the first version. No one remembered. Inside, Mrs. Hernandez from the front desk hugged me tight. "We missed you at the gala. They said you weren't attending." I blinked. "I was there, table 14. She frowned. "That's strange. I told the mayor you'd be attending. He wanted to thank you personally for the grant coordination." I swallowed hard. Maybe next time. Back home, I opened my laptop and logged into the admin panel for the program's website. I still had access. I still handled updates, registrations, donation receipts. But when I clicked About Us, Claire's name appeared in bold. Founder and Program Director. Underneath, with the support of a dedicated team. My name was buried in a single sentence at the bottom of the page. I checked the email archive. Hundreds of messages I'd sent over the years, scheduling volunteers, confirming donations, editing lesson plans. Most were unanswered. I looked through the shared drive, really, the one I'd organized by year, event, and location. Flyers, grant proposals, student reports, photos. I paused at a folder named Winter Drive 2019. Inside, pictures of me in a puffer jacket, taping up donation boxes. Claire wasn't there. She'd been sick that week. But in the official newsletter, it was Claire's Winter Drive. I remembered that week. I'd had a fever too. But I showed up, because if I didn't, no one else would. And I had told myself, it's not about credit, it's about the kids. But it was never just about credit, it was about truth. About not being erased. I opened another file, letters from students, one from Jasmine, age 10. "Thank you for teaching me new words. I want to be a teacher like you." She'd drawn a stick figure of me with a book. I'd taped that letter to my desk for years. I'd forgotten it until now. I closed the laptop slowly. My hands felt cold. That night, Claire posted a video recap of the gala. It opened with her voiceover. "This has always been my passion." Clips played, her standing by donation bins, shaking hands, posing with kids. A montage of moments she hadn't even attended. I recognized the footage shots I had taken, edited, uploaded, she'd pulled from my archive. No credit, no mention, just Claire narrating a story she didn't live. I watched it twice, then a third time. Then I deleted my backup folder. Not out of anger, just resignation. I realized I was the only one who had been keeping records, and I was the only one who remembered why. Because I thought someone would care. My mother knocked on the door just before bed. "We're having brunch tomorrow. Don't forget to dress nicely. Claire invited a city rep. Maybe they'll fund next year's initiative." I nodded. "Sure." She lingered. "I know you're feeling left out, but your sister's done so much. You have to let her shine." I looked at her. "Even if it's with my work?" She blinked, then frowned. "Don't be petty, Anna. It's not a competition." Then she left, shutting the door with just enough force to make her point. I stared at the closed door. Then I opened my laptop again, not to update the website, not to edit the next event's checklist. I opened a new folder, named it Proof, and I began uploading everything. Every receipt, every email, every design file, every logbook, every flyer with my initials at the bottom corner. I wasn't sure why yet. Maybe for myself. Maybe because I finally understood. If no one else was going to protect the truth, I would. Quietly, carefully, completely. 3 days later, I received an envelope. No stamp. Just slipped through the slot of my apartment door. Inside was an invitation-thick cream cardstock, gold lettering. "Claire Matthews, recipient of the Civic Beacon Award, cordially invites you to an evening of celebration in recognition of her outstanding contributions to community service." I stared at it for a long time. Then I flipped it over. At the bottom corner, someone had scrawled a note in blue pen. "You should come. It'll be good for you to see what real leadership looks like. No signature, but I didn't need one. I folded the invitation once, clean and sharp, and dropped it into the trash. That night, while brushing my teeth, I heard my phone buzz on the counter. It was a message from Lisa, an old volunteer who'd helped during the literacy summer camp. Hey, random question. Did you ever get that reimbursement for the supply kits? Claire said she passed it to you to process. I stared at the screen, foam still in my mouth. Then I typed, "She never gave me anything to reimburse." Lisa replied instantly, "Weird. She told the committee she delegated that to you months ago. Said you must have just forgotten." I didn't answer. I walked back into my room and sat on the edge of the bed. Suddenly I was 10 again, holding my science fair poster while Claire stood beside me with nothing but a smile, and somehow everyone still gave her the ribbon. I checked the program's finance folder. No invoice from Lisa, no transfer record. I looked through Claire's outgoing emails. She'd forwarded Lisa's receipt to herself. Nothing more. I called Ethan. He used to be my coworker at the library before he switched to nonprofit auditing. We hadn't talked in months. "Got a second?" I asked. "Always. What's up?" "Can someone be legally held accountable for claiming to process reimbursements and then never doing it?" Silence. Then, "Anna, what did she do?" I told him. "Not everything, just enough." He didn't sound surprised. "You have records?" "All of it. Don't move anything, and don't confront her yet." "I'm not trying to sue my sister," I said. "Not yet," he replied. The next morning, I woke up to a flurry of texts. Claire's Civic Beacon Award post had gone viral. News outlets were resharing her gala speech. Comments poured in how inspiring she was, how tireless, how selfless. I watched a clip. She was standing at the podium in a pearl suit saying, "It's not about recognition. It's about showing up for people who don't have a voice." My jaw tightened. Behind her, on the slideshow, was a photo of a child holding a reading packet I had created. The watermark with my initials had been cropped out. That afternoon, the program's website banner changed. Claire Matthews, founder, visionary, advocate. I was no longer listed in the support team at the bottom. I wasn't listed at all. I scrolled down to the donation tracker. Claire had added her personal Venmo. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. I wasn't sure what hurt more, the theft, or the ease with which she carried it out, like I was just furniture she'd rearranged. I went back into the proof folder. I opened a spreadsheet I hadn't touched since last year, volunteer hours log. I'd tracked everything. Every weekend I covered, every class I taught. I tallied them. 386.5 hours. I cross-checked them against Claire's log. Some lines were copied word for word. I double-checked metadata. My versions were created months earlier. Hers copied, renamed, and re-uploaded days before the award submission deadline. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I clicked print. I compiled a packet. Emails, logs, screenshots, metadata timestamps. I didn't plan to use it, not yet. But I needed it out of the cloud, out of my head, real. I dropped it in a manila folder and slid it under my mattress. Later that night, my mother called. "Did you see Claire on the news?" "Yes." "She looked amazing, didn't she?" "She did. You should be happy for her." I didn't answer. She continued, "Listen, honey, there's talk of a city grant, a big one. If she gets it, there might be room for you to come back on board, maybe coordinate logistics again." I almost laughed. "I never left, Mom. I just stopped letting you take credit." Silence. Then a sigh. "Why do you always make things difficult?" "Because I'm tired of disappearing." I hung up. My phone buzzed again 5 minutes later. This time, a message from Claire. "Don't let bitterness ruin everything we've built." I stared at her use of we. Then I turned off the phone. The thing is, she hadn't built anything. She'd inherited it. And now she was painting over the cracks with awards and applause, hoping no one looked too close. But I had the blueprints. And I wasn't going to burn them. Not yet, but soon. ChatGPT said. The final push came quietly. No drama, no screaming match, no scandal, just a memo. An internal newsletter went out to all partner organizations. It was titled, "Streamlining Our Structure." At the bottom, it listed updated contact points for all program roles. Claire's name appeared 5 times. Mine nowhere. I wasn't just demoted, I was deleted. That morning, I sat at the community cafe 2 blocks from the library, the place I used to meet volunteers. The place where Claire once forgot a donor lunch, and I stepped in wearing a borrowed blazer and explained our curriculum like it was second nature because it was. I opened my laptop, clicked on the folder marked Proof, and exhaled slowly. It was time. Not for revenge, not even for recognition. For clarity, for separation. I drafted a single email. Not to Claire, not to my mother, not even to the program's board. I sent it directly to the Civic Beacon Committee, the people who had awarded Claire their highest honor. Subject line, clarification regarding award contributions. The body was brief. As someone who served over 380 volunteer hours and wrote the foundational literacy curriculum credited in this year's Civic Beacon speech, I wanted to respectfully share supporting documentation regarding authorship, implementation, and recorded impact. I have no intention of challenging the award outcome. I simply wish to ensure accurate representation in any future public communication. I attached the packet. I did not sign off with anger or flourish. Just, thank you for your time. Anna Matthews. I hit send. Then I closed the laptop and sat still. My coffee had gone cold. I didn't mind. That afternoon, I logged into the website admin panel and removed myself. No explanation. Just a clean exit. I also changed the account passwords I had created. The donation portal, the email autoresponders, the software licenses registered under my name. I revoked access where it mattered, where it legally had to. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because it was mine. Claire had never asked. She'd just assumed. That night, I received a flurry of messages. The first was from Lisa. Just got an email from the Civic team. They said someone's reviewing the award submissions again. Then from Ethan. I don't know what you sent, but it must have hit. One of their committee members just followed me on LinkedIn. I said nothing. Not yet. I wanted the silence to carry weight. Around 9:42 p.m., my mother called. I didn't pick up. At 9:47, Claire texted, "What did you do?" Then again, at 10:03, "You're spiraling." "I can fix this. Just stop." I didn't reply. I didn't need fixing. I needed distance. At 10:15, I wrote one final email, this one to the program board. Not dramatic, not accusatory, just factual. I listed the specific accounts I'd created and maintained, noted the transition of ownership, and formally withdrew from all responsibilities, retroactive immediately. I also added a line. Please ensure that credit for ongoing work is attributed to the appropriate individuals. I've attached relevant documentation for reference. No threats, no demands, just facts. Just quiet closure. I turned off my notifications and went to bed. The next morning, I found a voicemail from my mother. Her voice was brittle. "You need to call Claire. She's in tears." The mayor's office reached out. They're asking questions. I deleted the message. By noon, Ethan called. "You made the right move," he said. "Even if they try to bury this, there's a paper trail now. That's power." I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. I didn't want power. I wanted peace. And now, I was closer to it than ever. That evening, I returned to the rec center. I hadn't been there in weeks. The woman at the front desk smiled, then leaned in and whispered, "They're talking about shutting down the gala video. Some donors are asking for clarification on usage rights." I just nodded. Walked past the main hall and into the supply room. It smelled like dust and laminated paper. My old filing box was still there, labeled in my handwriting. I opened it and pulled out one folder, the first curriculum draft, the one I wrote on my kitchen floor with decaf coffee and dollar store markers. I held it for a moment, then I slid it into my bag. On the way home, I stopped by the post office. I mailed a copy to myself, sealed and time-stamped, legal record, just in case. I didn't think it would come to that. But people like Claire, people who thrive on curated narratives, they don't unravel all at once. They fray, slowly, and when they do, they reach for the threads they think will hold. I had simply cut mine. That night, as rain traced lazy lines down the window, I sat at my desk and started drafting something new. Not a complaint, not a rebuttal, a proposal. For a standalone literacy project, one with no committee, no gala, no borrowed shine, just books and children and truth. For the first time in years, the words came easily. No one could take them, because no one had earned them but me. It started with a call from the bank. I was organizing the draft proposal for my new literacy project when my phone lit up with an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, it rang again. Same number. I picked up. Hi, this is Jennifer from Community First Credit Union. We're reaching out regarding a flagged transaction attempt involving your name on a joint nonprofit account. My heart slowed. I don't have a joint nonprofit account, I said. She paused. Well, that's the issue. Someone attempted to authorize a new disbursement channel using your personal details and the EIN of an organization named Bright Horizons Collective. I froze. That wasn't our literacy program. That was new. I asked her to send me the documents. She did within minutes. It was a loan application, stamped 3 days ago, requesting $40,000 in startup capital for a youth literacy expansion initiative. My name was listed under strategic co-founder. The contact email? Claire's. I stared at the screen, my pulse cold and steady. The business address was my parents' home. The bank had flagged the mismatch when verifying identities. That's what stopped it. I hadn't done anything yet. It was the system catching the fraud before I could. Still, it was enough. I called Ethan. We need to move fast, I said. She tried to create a business with my name. It's not even subtle anymore. He asked for the documents. I sent them. Then I sat in silence, staring at the blinking cursor on my proposal draft. The same cursor I'd followed for years while writing everything that kept the original program alive. Claire hadn't just taken credit. Now she was trying to use my name to build something new without me. Or worse, to protect herself by keeping me legally tied. I knew what that meant. If the business failed, if debts accrued, my name would be on the fallout. I wasn't angry. Not exactly. I was exhausted. Betrayal this calculated didn't come from impulse. It came from planning, from certainty, from the belief that I would stay silent because I always had. That night, my phone rang again. This time it was Claire. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Anna, I don't know what you're hearing, but you're blowing things out of proportion. It's just a structure thing. I had to put someone down as a co-founder. It's temporary. You know how the paperwork works. I didn't listen to the rest. The next day, I filed a formal fraud report with the bank. I submitted all documentation screenshots, emails, the Civic Beacon fallout, my resignation notice. Ethan helped me prepare the affidavit. That afternoon, my parents showed up at my apartment. I didn't buzz them in. They waited in the lobby. My building has glass doors. I could see my mother's tight smile and my father's arms crossed. I walked down, stopped before unlocking the entrance. You have 5 minutes, I said through the speaker. Don't be like this, my mother began. Claire told us what happened. It was a mistake. You know she's been under stress. She thought I'd keep being quiet, I interrupted. Like I always was. My father stepped closer. We're a family. We figure things out privately. Funny, I said. I don't remember being consulted when she signed my name to a loan. My mom frowned. You weren't supposed to find out like this. And there it was, the admission. Not denial. Just regret that the scheme had failed. I turned away. This isn't private anymore, I said. You made sure of that. Then I walked back upstairs. I didn't look back. That night, I received an email from the Civic Beacon Committee. They were rescinding Claire's award pending further review. The announcement would go public the following week. They thanked me for my clarity and documentation. I forwarded the message to Ethan. He replied with a single sentence. That's what truth does, slow but absolute. The next morning, the program's social accounts went silent. The donation portal was suspended. Claire's Civic Beacon video was marked private. I didn't celebrate, I just made coffee. Black, no sugar. Then I opened a blank document and titled it, Foundations, from the ground up. A real project, one with no borrowed names, no blurred credits, just my own voice, and the people who showed up honestly. No spotlight, no stage, just work, the kind that mattered, and this time, no one could take it. 3 days later, I got a text from my mother. Family dinner, Sunday. Everyone will be there. You should come. I stared at it for a moment, then replied, Will Claire be speaking on my behalf again, or am I allowed to use my own voice this time? No reply. That Sunday, I showed up anyway. Not because I owed anyone an explanation, but because I wanted to look them in the eye, just once, and say the thing they'd never expected me to say. I'm done. The dining room was already full. Roast chicken, glassware clinking, soft laughter. Claire sat at the head of the table, the same place our dad used to sit before he delegated family leadership to her, a title no one voted on. She looked up when I walked in, visibly tense. "Anna," she said, as if she hadn't tried to tie my name to $40,000 in liability. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "You invited me," I said calmly, taking the open seat across from her. My mother passed me a plate of green beans, like it was any Sunday. Like the last 2 weeks hadn't happened. For a while, no one spoke about it. We made small talk about the weather, the new bakery, opening downtown. Claire complimented someone's earrings. My father refilled wine glasses. Then, as the plates were cleared, the mood shifted. Claire folded her hands neatly. "I want to address what's been circulating," she said. "I understand there have been misunderstandings about recent paperwork and attribution." "I didn't say a word," she went on. "It was never my intention to discredit anyone's work. If anything, I've always tried to uplift the program. I believed we were working as a team, that our contributions were shared." I looked directly at her. Shared means acknowledged, not absorbed. Her jaw tightened, but she kept her voice level. "You're being harsh." "And you've been subtle," I said. "That's how this lasted as long as it did." My mother leaned forward, voice overly soft. "Maybe this isn't the place to do this, honey." "Then where?" I asked. "Because when it was the Civic Beacon Gala, I wasn't on stage. When it was the bank paperwork, I wasn't even informed. So tell me, where is the place to speak about being erased?" My father cleared his throat. "Let's not turn this into a spectacle." I almost laughed. "You already did. You just thought I wouldn't respond." Claire interjected. "Anna, I don't want to fight. I want to move forward." "Moving forward requires accountability," I said. Then I reached into my bag and placed a folder on the table. Inside, the flagged bank documents, the forged loan forms, the rescinded award statement, and a detailed timeline. "You told the Civic Committee I was a co-founder. You submitted my information on a federal application. You copied my work. And when I stepped back, you tried to keep my name where it was useful and erase it where it wasn't." Silence fell. My cousin dropped his fork. My aunt pretended to check her phone. Claire's voice broke a little. "You're making this public?" "Not yet," I said. "But I've documented everything, and I've taken legal steps to protect my name. So if anything like this happens again, yes, I will." My mother whispered, "After everything we've done for you." I turned to her. "What exactly have you done? Watched while she took my credit? Dismissed my concerns as jealousy? You told me to be supportive while I was being silenced." She looked stunned, as if the silence I'd carried for years had suddenly turned into a blade. Claire pushed the folder back across the table. "So what now?" "Now nothing," I said. "There's nothing else you can take from me, and nothing else I'm willing to give." Then I stood up. "Enjoy the rest of dinner." I didn't slam the door. I didn't make a scene. I just walked out, calm and deliberate. My heels on the hardwood were the only sound I wanted to leave behind. That night, I opened my inbox and found a new message from the Civic Beacon Committee. They had updated their press release. My name was now listed as the original architect of the program's educational model. Claire's award status was marked under review. I didn't forward it to anyone. I didn't even reply. I just archived it. Then I opened the document for foundations, from the ground up, and wrote one new line. "Built on truth, no borrowed shine." I stared at it for a moment. Then I hit save. ChatGPT said, "It unraveled faster than I thought." Within 2 weeks, Claire's name was quietly removed from several program partner pages. The committee that once praised her now issued a statement about reviewing eligibility standards for future awards. Donors paused their pledges. The local community blog ran a headline, "When Family Advocacy Turns into Appropriation." They didn't name her, but they didn't need to. The story was already out, quiet but loud enough. I didn't speak to Claire. I didn't need to. The silences that followed were more revealing than any argument. I saw the cracks start to show in small, unintended places. A volunteer group asked me directly whether the program was being shut down. A former sponsor reached out to clarify who actually wrote the curriculum. A board member resigned. And then came the final fracture, an email forwarded to me by a friend, still on the inside. Claire had submitted a new proposal under a different project name, rise and read. But the attached budget spreadsheet still carried file data tied to my original templates. Same categories, same format, same phrasing. Just repackaged, recycled, and rebranded. Only this time, people were watching. She received a formal warning. The application was rejected. Publicly, it looked like nothing. Privately, it was everything. Without borrowed credit, there was no momentum. And Claire, who had thrived on applause, now faced an audience growing colder by the day. Meanwhile, my new project, small, unfunded, quiet, was beginning to breathe. I met with 2 independent educators, both of whom had followed my original work. They offered to volunteer part-time. One of them brought donated books from her classroom. Another offered unused space in a shared art center. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't press-worthy, but it was real. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid it would be taken from me. Then came the voicemail, my mother again. "Anna, things are getting out of hand. Your sister is struggling. She's had to step back from several commitments. People are questioning everything." Her tone was clipped, weary. "She said you wouldn't let it go, that you're punishing her." I didn't reply, because this wasn't punishment, it was consequence. And they'd simply never imagined a world where I had the power to enforce any. A week later, Claire herself showed up. She stood outside my apartment, hair pulled back, sunglasses in her hand. She didn't buzz. She waited. I saw her from my window and hesitated. Then I walked down. I opened the door, didn't invite her in. We stood in the lobby under the dull hum of fluorescence. "I'm not here to fight," she said. "Good," I answered, "because I'm done explaining why I matter." She nodded once, slowly. "They pulled my eligibility from the committee roster. I lost the speaking engagement next month. Mom's blaming you." "Of course she is." "But I'm not," Claire said. "Not anymore." That caught me off guard. She looked tired, like someone who hadn't had to build anything for herself in a very long time and suddenly realized she might have to. "I thought I was protecting something," she continued. "The brand, the image. I didn't think—" "You didn't need to," I cut in. "Because I was thinking for both of us. Planning, documenting, fixing. That's what I always did." "I know," she whispered. "Now." I let the silence linger. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She just stood there, small and still. "I'm applying for an admin job at the community college," she said. "Nothing flashy, just something stable." "Good," I said. "Start there." She nodded, turned to leave, then stopped. "You were never invisible, you know." I met her eyes. "You just refused to look." Then she left. I didn't follow. That night, I lit a candle beside my desk. Not for her, not for the damage, just for stillness. Outside, the city moved on. Inside, I opened the latest draft of Foundations. I'd received interest from a small grant program. Nothing major, just enough to keep the lights on, maybe print some materials. I smiled, not because I was winning, but because, finally, I wasn't being erased. Claire's voice would fade from the narrative, not by force, but by truth. The kind that doesn't need volume, just time, and I had plenty of that now. I wake up before sunrise now, not because I have to, just because the quiet feels different when no one is asking for anything. I brew coffee slowly, the way I like it French press, 2 spoons, no sugar. While it steeps, I don't check my phone. I don't open email. I don't scan for updates or new obligations waiting under a polite subject line. For the first time in years, the morning belongs to me. There's a stack of papers on my desk, not demands, not unfinished work I inherited from someone else, just the final edits of Foundations, from the ground up. A slim grant came through last week. Modest, but enough to print a first round of curriculum guides and fund a small weekend workshop. 2 former students, now in high school, offered to help run the sessions. They remembered the early days, remembered me, called me Miss Anna, even though I'd never asked them to. Said they still had the flashcards I'd made with construction paper and markers. I hadn't known they kept those. That moment stayed with me, not because it was dramatic, but because it wasn't. It was simple, honest. And that's all I had ever wanted to be seen for what was real, not what was projected, borrowed, or claimed. Yesterday, an envelope arrived. No return address, but I knew the handwriting before I opened it. My father's. Inside was a letter, 2 pages folded neatly. The first half read like a summary. Figures, dates, changes in committee decisions. It was sterile, like he was still trying to manage damage the way he used to manage accounts. But midway through, it shifted. He wrote about the calls they stopped receiving, the clients who'd moved on, the strain of watching everything they built slowly fade into silence. Then came the line that made me pause. You were never the outsider. We just made you feel like one. It wasn't an apology. Not quite, but it was the closest he'd ever come to naming what had been true for years. He didn't ask me to forgive. He didn't ask me to come back. He just said he finally understood that something irreplaceable had been lost, and that maybe it was too late to fix it. I folded the letter and placed it in the bottom drawer of my desk. I didn't do it out of sentiment. I did it because it mattered that he had written it, not because I needed his validation, but because I needed to know that the truth had reached even him. This morning, as I organized the supply bins for the Saturday reading group, I saw Claire's name pop up on my phone. Just a notification, a new email. The subject line was blank. I opened it. 3 words. I'm still learning. No attachments, no explanations. I stared at it for a moment, then archived it. Not out of bitterness, not out of revenge, just clarity. She wasn't mine to fix, not anymore. Later that day, I walked to the local print shop to pick up the first batch of booklets. They weren't glossy, no embossed logo. Just plain covers with block letters and hand-drawn illustrations from one of the volunteers. When I handed the invoice to the clerk, he asked, "Is this for a school?" I smiled. "Sort of. It's something new." He nodded, handed me the receipt, and said, "Well, it looks like it's something good." That night, I lit a candle. Not for grief, not for memory, just to mark the quiet. The air felt still, grounded. I sat on my small balcony, legs tucked under me, the city dim below. No applause, no emails, just the soft hum of streetlights and the steady rhythm of a life that belonged only to me. A few days later, another envelope came. This one from a family cousin, Melissa, who used to bring lemon bars to events and was the only one who ever quietly helped with cleanup. Inside was a photo. From years ago. One I didn't know existed. It showed me crouched beside a group of kids, holding up flashcards, face half turned in a laugh. Claire was in the background looking at her phone. Melissa wrote, "Found this while cleaning. Thought you should have it. I always knew." I placed the photo beside my desk. No frame. Just leaned against a stack of books, where I could see it when I worked. I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. I just looked at it for a while, then returned to editing the next week's lesson plan. I still think about them sometimes, my mother, my father, even Claire. Not with longing, not with hate, just the kind of distant wonder that comes from watching a storm pass after years of drizzle. They're quieter now. Or maybe I've just stopped listening. Either way, the silence is mine. A wedding invitation arrived last week. A cousin I barely knew. My name was spelled correctly, the envelope hand-addressed. No note inside, just a time, a date, a location. I let it sit for a few days. Then I dropped it into the recycling bin. Not out of spite, just a decision. There are some places I don't need to return to, some roles I've retired from permanently. That night, I folded the last of my laundry and poured a glass of water. I didn't think about what they were doing. I didn't check social media. I didn't scroll to see if Claire had posted another motivational quote about resilience. Instead, I turned off the lights, walked to my desk, taped one line above the monitor. I wasn't born to be the background of someone else's story. And below that, I wrote one more. This one is mine. They thought I was lost, but I was never theirs to lose.